All right, we're back at it again. Hope you had a good week. Hope you're taking in our talks, and I hope that not only that you are doing it, but that you're applying it to a better life for you and for your loved ones. Now, I was wrestling between two different topics here, um, just because both are every topic that I've covered thus far has been very important, but these two. It's kind of interesting. Either I'll upload one and then do like a live of the other one today, or if not, then it'll just have to wait for this coming weekend. But I believe I want to start with this one just because we're living in a world of instant gratification more so than ever. Like everything is just supply and demand. You order something on Amazon, next day it fucking shows up at your house. I think that's wild to me. Ultimately convenient, but imagine what that does in the long run, where I don't know, you go ahead and order something from Amazon again, but it's not next day shipping. You got to wait a couple days out, and people are just like, "Oh, well, what the fuck?" and this and that, and they get all bullshit. I find that I find the fun is like, okay, so what's a couple of days? What's a couple more days? Unless unless this is something that you really need that you could pick up from the store. Most oftentimes, no. It's just these, people put their wants over the needs, but treat it as a need when they don't. We talked about this. We talked about this with desire. When you get something after you just like amped it up, like, oh my god, I can't wait, this and that, and then you get it, and you're just like, it's crazy. It really is crazy when when you really like unpack the whole thing for what it is. But this, we're gonna go over wealth and pleasure, which it'll shake hands very well with desire. So we're gonna start it off. This is from Ward Farnsworth. On a Stoic view, money and our fascination with it, greed, tends to make us ridiculous and to cause much misery to ourselves and to others. Once we have money, we worry about keeping it, are anxious for more of it, and feel pain when it is lost. We feel a desire for more of whatever we have, and gradually value all sorts of things more highly than they are worth. We overrate pleasures and underrate the cost of trying to gain them. Pleasure and pain are parts of a cycle. They go together and have to be addressed together. Which, at this point, I unpack things unless it's super straight shooter kind of shit. Stoics value moderation and they don't view it as a compromise of pleasures, which that is absolutely true. Just because you're having a little less of something doesn't mean that you're depriving yourself of the thing as a whole. A second Stoic resource is detachment. One can learn to enjoy wealth and pleasures without grasping for them, holding them too tightly when one has them, or being crushed when they are gone. Third, to continue a theme from different portion, the easiest way to real wealth is by learning to be happy with less, with enough. Which, shout outs to all the minimalists out there, you know, that they have small apartment or whatever, and they just have the bare minimum to get by, or even if they don't and they live outside their car, where they're still making something work. When they have developed the value of things, I mean, everyone's story is different. But for people living out of their car, yeah, they might have fucked around a little bit, didn't see the value in things, and now this is where they're at. And they're slowly understanding the value of things and they're coming back up. Or you do have some people out there that are just highly nomadic and they don't really feel like they need to be planted in one place. They would much rather go from place to place, and that's enough for them, and that's completely fine, so long as they attain and retain their values. Stoics regard wisdom and understanding as producing a kind of joy that is immune from interruption by circumstance. Yeah, same thing, straight shot, straight shooter. So number one, the hazards of money. The Stoics generally consider money to be a great corrupter of the individual and of social life. Money is hard to see and understand clearly. It causes us to misjudge the value of things, and it drives those who worship it into low behavior. So, I mean, think about all the crazy shit people would do for, just money. It doesn't matter if it's small or if it's, a bigger amount. It should be very concerning either or, even more so if it is for a bigger amount, because, uh, the bigger the amount, the bigger whatever it is that this person is going to do for it. And even if that means just like putting themselves at a low point or other people at low points, or I don't know, putting them in a really like shitty situation for it because they think that the money is going to go ahead and solve everything. And I want to get this out right now. Money is only an amplifier. It is only an amplifier. And I know I'm not the only one that says this in the online internet space, but it's very true. It's all that it is. You cannot hope to be genuinely like fulfilled when you have the money. Sure, it can make you happy. There's a bunch of rich people I know that they're happy. But if you have that, but you traded in like certain things that you would have felt more fulfilled with that you can't really buy, then what kind of like value is that really? You know. But that's just my thing on it. I'm sure some rich guy would just shoot me down with that. It's like, oh, well, I can buy my purpose. I can buy my fulfillment. Like, yeah, I doubt that. It's not something that you can buy. Much like love, you can't buy love. And if you think you can buy it, it's the fakest shit you'd ever wasted your money on. Simply put. A quote from Seneca on Epistles. That very thing which occupies so many magistrates and so many judges, which makes both magistrates and judges money, since it began to be regarded with honor, has caused true honor to fall into ruin. Becoming alternately merchants and merchandise by turns, we ask not what a thing truly is, but what it costs. There's a cost to everything, and as much as I don't agree with it, as someone that I can't put myself in that like strata, is that everyone has a price, right? Everybody has a price. You get to see it. You get to see like this one sentence be played out in certain, books, movies, TV shows, and shit like that, and even in real life. Um, I'm the one that just wants that I can put myself over the money because I can go ahead and get the money. It may not be as much as I'm being offered for something that goes against my way of living, my lifestyle or whatever. It's at some point there's going to be a detriment that's going to hit me hard, even if I got whatever money offered. But that's my whole that's my whole like morals of it really, where unless I know that it's something that would benefit me, adhere to me, and there's no real setbacks, even then, sure, it would sound nice, but I don't. I'm not a fan of walking around as if I have some sort of price tag on me. If there is a tag on me, it should show the outside world just how much I value myself or where my value is at. You know. I think to me that just goes beyond the price tag. From Seneca of this is Seneca from Epistles. Riches puff up the spirit and beget pride. They bring on envy and unsettle the mind to such an extent that a reputation for having money delights us, even when that reputation will do us harm. And this is someone should have spoke out on this shit long ago, because look at where we're at with social media. Look at where we're at, where people just it's for the gram, it's for the clout. For fuck's sake, we had oh my god, who was it that I can't come to mind, but you'd have like some people do that stupid it's old as shit now, cinnamon spice challenge or whatever it was. You get a spoonful of that. Oh wow, that's great. Like they'll put themselves through the ringer, or shoe nice. There it is, shoe nice. This guy, holy shit! You look him up on YouTube. it's This guy is just the extreme of it all. Just down and straight bottles of whatever kind of alcohol, or drinking straight gallons of milk, this and that. I mean, yeah, you're gonna get a following because it's entertainment to people, but man, yeah, the trade out for what you're putting your body through like that, dude. That's, I don't know. To me, that's just like holy shit. But sure, if he's happy, I guess. But it really, it's true. It puffs up the spirit, but begets the pride. You put yourself down low, for the money, right? It just shouldn't even be like that, because okay, you put yourself down, you do all this goofy shit, you make all this money and status, yeah, sure, but now you're known as like the it person. Oh, yeah, this person made all this money from just drinking gallons and gallons of milk, or doing some crazy shit at a Walmart or whatever have you. Like you're known for that now, and that's it. Even if you were to do whatever to get out of it, and oh, I'm a smarter person, or I'm a this kind of person, much more established, much more distinguished. There's that history. That's your nexus point. That is where you started. You know. Number two, the effect of wealth on its holder. The previous chapter discussed in ways in which acquisitions fail to satisfy the appetite for them. The same can be said for money, which Stoics view as having no particular tendency to make people happier. Now, that previous chapter we call desire. We went through it, and it could be a dangerous thing if you don't know how to come to grips with it, have your control on it, you know. Um, but in which case, yeah, it's Stoics view as having no particular tendency to make people happier. When it comes to money, it's just, yeah, man, you think that you're happy because you get to buy and do all sorts of shit. Maybe even travel the world, sure. But you really don't need that much money to travel the world like that. You don't. There are many different ways to do it without you having to be rich. What people tend to shoulder in with travel is to go at these like high-end places, this and that, like tourist attractions, places that the rich would go if they were to travel, because it's just like, yeah, if you had just enough money for like a ticket, doesn't even have to be round trip. You go there, you could probably get a job somewhere, make a couple couple currencies here and there, doing whatever, and experiencing it that way. Which granted, yeah, people will say, "Oh, well, I travel not to work." That's fine. You can do that. You can go on your vacation, but just know that it's just another way to do it, just to see what to really grasp what life is like out there. Besides just showing up and doing things that isn't really work. You know what I mean? So it's just like, yeah, that's a vacation. But if you're doing it this way, you truly are seeing how things are over there. People just go there for the play. They're not going there for the work. If you do the same thing over here that you do over there, it's going to be a little bit different. You're going to see the differences with that. Seneca, from Consolation to Helvia. Consider how many more people are poor than rich, and yet you will observe that the poor are no unhappier and no more anxious than the rich. That's really good. Because think about it, like the poor, all right, you're anxious to get out of whatever debt that you're in, whatever financial curse that you may have, and you're always trying to chase the money. You're rich, you have a lot more shit to worry about, a lot more house of cards in your financial field, so you're worried about that. If that falls, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, and you can't, maybe you could afford for it to fall, but it would suck. And maybe you couldn't at all, and that's just as stressful. The more money, with more money comes more responsibilities, At least to me, that's how I've been seeing it from influencer to influencer, celebrity to celebrity. Whether or not it gets talked about, it adds up. It makes sense, because you want to keep that cash flow going no matter what it is that you do, and to some, no matter how it is that you do it. Um, yeah. So it's just that the anxieties, there's a likeness to that because it still involves a stress towards currency. Let's see. And we have from Seneca, from Epistles. It matters little whether you lay a sick man on a bed of wood or a bed of gold. Wherever he may be moved, he will carry his disease with him. So too it matters not whether a diseased mind is set down in wealth or in poverty. The malady follows the man. And malady being, like just like this big distress, like the next level. But no, it really doesn't matter. Like a a poor guy turning rich, if he has his mind right, will not go through at the very least half of that shit that people that were poor and were rich are going through because it's just they're so much more worried about the money than their mindset. With that whole fake it till you make it shit, just to see what happens, and you get to see it now. You get to see what that does to them now. They're not people. They're really not people. They're just consumed in this horseshit so long as it makes them money. It's like they throw their own belief system out the window and adorn something superficial. Seneca from Epistles. He who has need of riches feels fear on their account, but no man enjoys a blessing that brings anxiety. He is always trying to add a little more. While he puzzles over increasing his wealth, he forgets how to use it. And there you go, It's people always want a little bit more each day. And when it comes to, you know, people going and getting more money, I'm telling you, it's like this weird like mental shift. It doesn't hit you all at once, but it's like an over the time kind of thing. And if people forget how to people. It's like the money is the only the money is the only motivator to living a good life, which I don't believe that that's true. Again, it's an amplifier. It is. It amplifies the life that you live and what you earn and what you can give. Understandably so. But you have to keep your humanity about you, no matter what it is that you're doing, where you're going. Because it's very easy to just throw that shit right out the window as soon as $1 million lands on your lap or whatever large sum of money that you normally do not get. Because all of a sudden the ego is just right through the roof. Yeah, see you never. Because because a lot of people out there they're on that cloud that just pushes them up, and they never want to come down. And when they fall down hard. You do. Seneca from Epistles. We might define the disease this way: to strive too hard for things that are only worth wanting a little or not at all, or to value things highly that ought to be valued only somewhat or not at all. Damn, this is why I love Seneca. This guy, this fucking guy is, man, he's been on it. Thousands of years, in his time, he was still on it. And again, I know I said this in other videos, but when it comes down to human behavior, there's a pattern. We haven't really changed that much. We really haven't. After all these years that went by, the only thing that's changed was what we siphoned from the world to put out to siphon from ourselves. It's technology without borders, science without borders. And I get it. There is a yin and yang to everything with that. But what's more prevalent? You know what I mean? It's almost to the point where yeah, you can go ahead and profit off the dead, off the diseased, but not so much off the cured ones or the ones that provide, natural medicines from the earth that's created. That you barely ever see that. That doesn't get advertised as much as the horse shit they're putting out there. And why is that? It's something to think about. Now, number three, hazards of pleasure. Stoics view pleasures as costlier than they seem, as not lasting long, as always exacting a price, and as invariably alternating with some sort of loss or pain. And it's true, man. When you really there's a hefty price when it comes to convenience and pleasures. And I'm not just talking short term. You're up, you put the money up, and that's it. How is it long term? You're still paying the price long term. Because if you know that you would be, put it on the scale to weigh and see if it's worth it, you know? And yeah, so that as not long lasting as always exacting a price and as invariably alternating with some sort of loss or pain. Because as I said, people run towards pleasure, they want to run away from pain, which we need both, honestly. We need both to live a life because it's the different strokes of life, the good, the bad, the pleasure, the pain. Good and bad, only thinking makes it so. That's from Shakespeare and Hamlet. But the pleasure and pain from it, you know, even though thinking makes it so, it's more of a general thing when we talk about um, pains that are shared with different people, even though it may be different, it still would go to the same thing. And same thing would go for pleasure. Or there are people on the opposite spectrum that whatever one would find painful, the other one would find pleasuring, and what that one would find pleasuring, the other one would find painful. So it is it is a pick of the draw, but I speak on generalizations all the time. But I will always accept the exceptions to the rule. Seneca from Epistles. One person seeks joy in feasting and self-indulgence, another in elections and crowds of supporters, another in his mistress, another in the idle display of culture and in literature that has no power to heal. All of them are led astray by delights that are deceptive and short-lived, like drunkenness, for example, which pays for a single hour of hilarious madness with a long-lasting sickness, or like applause and enthusiastic popularity and approval that are gained and atoned for at the cost of great mental disquietude. And it's kind of pushing forward what I was already talking about. It put it on the scale to weigh. Because if there are costs to short-term things, but they have a good payout, technically, I guess that's an investment, if you would call it. But you wouldn't want to invest in your pain for the short dewdrop of pleasure you get right in the beginning. And, when it comes to that fork in the road, well, on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, on one of the sides, you see that it's nice throughout in the beginning, but there's some horseshit down, like halfway. And then the other road, you got the horseshit right here. It could be anything, man. I don't know. It's those broken shards of glass or something. But at that halfway point, you could see it a little bit. But there is some light there. There's some sun shining there, and it seems very promising. Like this road isn't going to last forever. So which one would you rather take? Montaigne from That We Taste Nothing Pure. Ease crushes us. That is the sense of an ancient Greek verse, which says the gods sell us every good they give us. That is to say, they give us nothing pure and perfect, nothing that we do not buy at the cost of some evil. And this was from 1580. And he mentions this Greek verse from Epicharmus, who was a Greek poet from 540 to 450 BC. There you have a little history there. But but even then, you know, um, That poet had something going on in the BC era. So again, when it comes down to that human pattern, man, it hasn't been that much different, hasn't. From Marcus Aurelius from his book Meditations. No one who is good and honorable would regret having passed a pleasure by. No one who is good and honorable would regret having passed a pleasure by. So, low end of the spectrum, right? People are just like, oh, hey, look, our boss brought in all these sweets to work. You got apple fritters, you got all these cakes and this and that. Sure, that'd be amazing to have. Well, I'm just like, nah, no thanks. Or, okay, I could use a different example. For a pleasure that passed you by, for the one couple times that, for the couple times, handful of times, whatever, that you don't want to partake in smoking weed, and then everyone tries to oust you as like a problem. Like, oh, what? Why? No, what the hell? Come on, man. Don't be a loner or whatever it is. Like, really, you're gonna talk to me about lonerism? But even if you were to just not want to, partake in a certain pleasure or something because you wanted to do something more constructive or whatever have you. And if you don't regret on it, you ex-nay that whole FOMO bullshit, the fear of missing out, because you didn't have the fear to begin with. For whatever joint you didn't smoke, that you could do it later or whatever, in moderation, or whatever sweets that you didn't partake in, that you want to go ahead and have one at a certain point. Again, all moderation. You're just kind of like, yeah, no, right now, but that doesn't mean I can't have it later. That's it. That's really all that it is. And even if you chose not to have it later, you still put it on the scale of the way where it's just like, this, no, because maybe the pleasure that I got now would be the pain that I'd have later. It's all on the perspective within the moment that you live in, but it's on you to provide that thinking or the critical thinking when the moment comes. Number 4, things unneeded. We turn after our familiar pattern from the Stoic analysis of wealth and pleasure to Stoic ideas about how to change them. Stoics view wealth not as an absolute state, but as a favorable relationship between what one has and what one wants. Most people devote themselves to enlarging the first when they would do better to reduce the second. This is the classic Stoic inversion. Thank you, Mr. Farnsworth. Now, with this passage that he put out here, definitely a familiar pattern. And to manage that, always focus on yourself and what you have. Be grateful for that every day, because I guarantee you, it's you would have more in that regard than someone else, even if they have the same sort of like paychecks as you, whatever the financial status is. But not a lot of people think that way. It's always just they're not thinking about how much more they have from the person beneath them. No, they're thinking about how much more the person has above them, and they want that. Which I get it. We're all trying to shoot for the stars here. But with you doing that and you're not being present with and grateful with what you have, you're doing a disservice to yourself by not providing yourself with the the perspectives that's needed, so that you feel much less anxiety and much more comfortable with the things that you do have. That doesn't mean that you can't get more, and that certainly doesn't mean that you can't lose what you have. You got to move accordingly. Now, from Seneca, from his book Epistles. What I will teach you is the ability to become rich as speedily as possible. How excited you are to hear the news! And rightly so. I will lead you by a shortcut to the greatest wealth. My dear Lucilius, not wanting something is just as good as having it. The important thing, either way, is the same: freedom from worry. And that's, man, that's almost, to me, that's something that you cannot buy. The freedom from worry. Again, the rich, they still worry. The poor, they still worry. Middle class, if it's still there, they still worry. And it kind of begs the question. Well, it's just like, what does it take to live in true freedom? Is there a cost to freedom? The true freedom, you know? And I am a sole believer of the fact that there is a freedom to things that there's no real cost to have it, because it's all on your perspective. It really does. Where, especially out in the West, where we're more free than certain third world countries out there, for starters, because there's nothing that we can't really get into over here. That we wouldn't have to, go through a process to get. Sorry, we go through a process to just get the opportunity for, you know, and that gets swept under the rug like you wouldn't believe. Um, Not wanting something is just as good as having it, because everyone wants to want shit, man. And when they want it and they have it, it's almost like just by having what they wanted so strongly, that once when they have it, it's devalued immediately. For some reason, unless those people have their values about them and they really treat what they have with the utmost respect and care, so it's not sitting away collecting dust, where it's just a whatever thing, you know. From Farnsworth, the things one doesn't want or need can thus be counted as a form of wealth. I'll repeat that. The things one doesn't want or need can thus be counted as a form of wealth. And man, it's true. Think about, because we talked about in desire, when you want something, the chase is up, and then when you get it, it's kind of like, even with your needs, when you start cutting back on, stuff that you put in your head that you want or that you need, it definitely is a form of wealth, because you're putting a lot more value within yourself to not go through whatever kind of process or maybe extremities to go through to achieve the need or want. But in the same hand, let's say that you need I don't know, some sort of training to go from a apprentice to a journeyman in blue collar jobs. Now, blue collar will always be around for years, because it's just really great skills to know and to learn. Whether or not you want to make a business out of it, it only adds to your self-sufficiency. That creates wealth. That creates value. But with that, it doesn't take away from your own, because you're trying to build up on it. So whereas you feel like you would need or want a console, need or want those tickets to whatever concert, need or want a new car because yours is about to shit the bed. Well, what is it that you go through to get it? And what is the outcome of it? And does it bring, or does it elevate value within you? Just because it looks nice or whatever, it could add to your status. Sure, and status is very valuable. But, for every person that has, I don't know, like a Tesla, they may have good financial values, but maybe not so much as more like humanitarian values. And that's just an example. Might not be the greatest, but use that to form other examples in your mind that could be better than mine. Put that down in the comments below. I would like to see that. Now, from the Stoic Johnson, from his book The Adventurer, from 1753. Every man may grow rich by contracting his wishes, and by quiet acquiescence in what has been given him, supply the absence of more. And this is from people that they get some stuff and they constantly want more, and they get into like this megalomaniac kind of mentality to always get more. and that what they have, as soon as they get the more is not enough. No, I need more. Never the most, because they know how it sounds. But oh, I need more. Okay, you have more now. Well, I need more of that. Okay, well, you have more of that, and it's life in the fast lane. That can lead to a very lonely life or a very quick death, or the lonely life before your quick death. Um, Number five. Actually, before I get to number five, to what Johnson had put out there, Farnsworth had said this, and the converse is also true. Desires are a form of poverty. And this is from Seneca from Epistles. It is not one who has little, but one who craves more, who is poor. What does it matter how much you have laid up in your safe or in your warehouse? How large are your flocks or your investments if you covet your neighbor's property, and if you count not what you have, but what remains for you to have? Again, you go through like this cycle of shit, and and it's just you're not happy even when you get the more. Where someone else that is in like the same lane, but does goes through the process in moderation, where it's just like what are you sacrificing to get it? And then that's not what gets talked about. Yeah, you could be, oh yeah, I'm happy because I have all this stuff. Okay, well flip that. What's bothering you about having all this stuff? Is it because you probably have it on like loan or credit, or some affirmed shit, or that it was stolen, or that you outbid someone that they don't like you, so they're gonna blast you on social media or something like that. Like it goes on. I'm not saying that any one of these is the true one thing, but it could stack up. you know So 5, acceptance. A related idea, but applied more broadly. The value of accepting one's lot and what one has. Again, the Stoics often made the point with comparisons. And when it comes to Epictetus, from his book Enchiridion. Remember that you are an actor in a play of whatever kind the producer may choose. If a short one, short. If a long one, long. If he wants you to play a beggar, see that you act even this part naturally. Or a cripple, or a ruler, or an ordinary citizen. Your task is to give a good performance of the part that you are assigned. To select the part belongs to someone else. So, if it's something that's bigger than you, you gotta go ahead and accept that, honestly. Because I get it. Everyone's trying to get their own values and their own powers and stuff like that. Some in spite of someone else, where it should be to be better for someone else. But that aside, the value of accepting one's lot, and what one has, and that should be good enough. It should never be, oh well, I have this computer station, but one of my relatives has one that's like twice as much as mine, and I want that. And it's just like, wait, you're not happy with the amount of money you put here? Like, you did put in the work to get it, so why sweep that under the rug? I don't know. Doesn't add up to me. From Marcus Aurelius of Meditations, you're not upset because you weigh only so many pounds and not 300, but you are sorry that you have only so many years to live and not more. Just as you are satisfied with how much substance has been allotted to you, be content also with the time. And that's man, that's really good. You're not upset because you weigh only so many pounds and not 300. For the guys that are trying to bulk up and put on weight that I see at the gym when I go, I just tell them and say, no, the hard work is fine, and you'll find more of it to add on to your hard work. But you can't get that in a day, man. You have to really keep it consistent with the time that is given, and as well as taken. Because time is the one thing that gives and takes, gives and takes, gives and takes all the time. So it's almost like the double. Like as it's given, it's taken. So what so what is it that you really do with the time? Time is really, really important. It may not be, or it may not have been when you were younger because you're just kind of like, whatever. But you'll see as you grow with age just how much more important time is and how it should have been to you. But it's not something for you to live with in regret, because it's just you were just living, you didn't know any better. Somebody should have told you, and that's that. Or, it's either somebody should have told you or there should have been, and this isn't a takeaway from the person, but there should have been a point to where, you just sat down and thought about it. It's just like for the gamers that can easily pump 8 to 10 hours a game and just sit and just pump that shit out, there will be hopefully a point that comes in your mind where it's just like, well, what the fuck else can I do? The achievements don't matter. The trophies don't matter. My name on the leaderboard doesn't matter. It feels good because I'm making some sort of status for me that's superficial. It doesn't really matter in a digital space. For what? Or for some, for what if it doesn't get monetized, like the gamers out there that go to the esports and shit like that, which even then I'm not a fan of, but I do I'm not a fan of that mentality, but I am a fan of, sportsmanship and entertainment. So like for kids that want to get into like, the Call of Duty shooting tournaments or fighting game contest tournaments and stuff like that, like I love seeing the competitiveness. That's fine. But we didn't, think about how many years ago where we didn't even have that. Whereas, you had other people competing with different things, whether it's like, some sort of sport. Um, I'm sure they didn't have paintball back then, but an equivalent perhaps, and stuff like that. I mean, not to say that we don't have it now. We still do, but to have it up in a digital space and to have it up in real life, which is going to build yourself up more and yield a lot more of just better things for yourself that other people get to see, because for the gamers that go ahead and play the fighting games to make the money, no, it's good that they make the money, put them in the ring. For the shooters that go ahead and play all the Call of Duty stuff and all that, okay, put them in the paintball arena and see how they really do. It's night and day with this shit, man. But before I get carried away with that, we're going to go to number 6. Detachment or detachment. The Stoics have more to say about wealth and pleasure than learn not to want them, quote unquote, learn not to want them. For they recognize that everyone would rather have those things than not. First and most generally, Stoics regard wealth and other such externals as indifferent, not as good or bad in themselves. But Stoicism allows that we might legitimately want some of those things. In other words, that some of them are so-called preferred indifference. Preferred indifferent sounds like a contradiction in terms, and because it might seem to be a kind of fudge factor. The bad Stoic who cannot let go of greed for material goods will shrug them off as preferred indifference. It is reasonable, though not easy, to seek detachment from the things one wants in the world. It is not realistic to eradicate all preferences about them. So, to unpack this, okay, a preferred indifferent, right? Again, does sound like a contradiction, but people can't seem to let go of the greed, and they treat their material possessions better than their fellow man or woman. Where it's just like, try going out on a date, see who uses the phone first. It's like, put that shit away. Put that fucking shit away, man. Be involved in the present. And it's okay to go ahead and get stuff and to build up for yourself, but it's not to ultimately put the other person down wholly. I mean, competition's competition. All's fair in love and war and that kind of shit. But when it comes to greed, And to just have it just be that, have people be so enamored with just getting things, it's a bad taste. It's in bad. And this is why where when it comes to possessions and stuff, it's healthy to have certain detachments from them. Like, well, you can't see it now, but I have controllers over here. This PC rig that I have, certain Funko Pops and all this other shit where it's like it's not everything to me. Even my car, it's important. It's not everything to me, you know. And that goes without saying that I do have a commute to work, and if that's gone, yeah, it sucks. I'm not asked out. Simply put, it's the detachment. It's not to be in carelessness. No, you still have care, but not to where it's over that line of care, to where it's overbearing. To everyone else, if not, hopefully, if not to yourself, which should be like really provide yourself that self-awareness and figure it out. So from Seneca, from his book Epistles, count yourself happy only when all your joys are born of reason, and when, having seen the things that everyone clutches at or prays for or watches over, you find. I do not say nothing you prefer, but nothing you require. That's great. And again, it's kind of what we've been talking about a couple minutes ago. It's just be happy with what you got. Know that you can get more, but don't treat it as it's like a life or death thing. You know, just know that you can, even in the darkest of times you may be going through, where you feel like you can, and ask yourself, well, what's keeping you from it? Because if it's fear, when we already went over fear in the emotion video, but again, it's just a mind killer. You can flip your mentality to provide better for yourself, provide more for yourself. Because fear will always, always, always hold us back from our potential, true potential even. And, yeah, true believer of that shit, man. So it's really good. Yeah, I do not say nothing you prefer, but nothing you require. No, preference is preference, but not everything is requirement. you know. Well, let me reiterate that you can have your preference, you can have what's required, but just know what it is for on both sides, that it's gonna keep you in a happy state, in a full and fulfilled state, without anything being taken out, you know, to where it's just like you may put on airs that you are happy and fulfilled, but when behind closed doors, you're probably fucking empty. And for what? You know? Seneca on the happy life. Nor does the wise man regard himself as undeserving of any of the gifts of fortune. He does not love riches, but would prefer them. He does not admit them to his heart, but to his house. He does not reject the riches he has, but keeps them to supply fuller material for the exercise of his virtue. That's it. Like, it's almost as if he's right next to me sometimes when I'm just getting into it. And he's like, hold on, son, I got something for you. And here it is. Literally that. This is great. This is wise men are about this shit. Where riches aren't to be loved, to be preferred, because it's not everything, but we know that it's something. We know that it's important, but it's not everything. And that's for him not to have such a deep love and fascination of it. Because what KRS One said it best. If you know him, bravo. If not, but love's gonna get you killed. It'll get you. You can, and this is outside of loving someone else, but just materials. It could easily come back around and fucking take you out, just like that. But when you not admit them to your heart, but to your house, you're admitting it to your lifestyle, your better living. You don't love it. You know what it does. You know the benefit, the pros and cons of it. and you apply that to your lifestyle to, while being aware still of the pros and cons. Now, from Farnsworth, what is the difference between a preferred indifferent and the desires that Stoics regard as hazardous? Detachment. An attachment to an external causes one's happiness and equilibrium to depend on it. And your equilibrium is how you process your shit, like what your mindset is at, your mind state. But money, if held without attachment, is unobjectionable. For the money isn't the point. The point is the health of the mind. The word detachment risks creating the wrong impression, since it cannot connote a lack of real interest in whatever is the subject of it. That isn't the idea. Detachment refers more to the way in which something is held and to whether the mind has been given over to it in an excessive way. The detachment of the Stoic thus can be viewed as a kind of moderation. That is, moderation to one's relationship to externals. A good way to test such a relationship is to know whether you have an attachment to a thing or just a preference about it. Is to consider how well you would handle its loss. So, I kind of went over it, but he has his own way of covering it, and it's completely fine. Love this. Now, it's not so much as just like not wanting it at all or not giving a shit about it at all, but you're keeping things in moderation. Much like people at the gym. It's not enough that you lift the weights. Oh, you got to be on this diet. Oh, but you can have a cheat day. There you go. Moderation. What, once a week? Or some people, I don't know, twice. I don't know how you do it. But you give yourself that cheat day per week. Hey, you worked hard. Here's a cake. Hey, you worked hard. Here's a brownie. Whatever the fuck it is. Right? But it comes down to, just that. To where it's like, you don't want to supersede moderation, because a life of abundance can be viewed as a good thing or a bad thing. It all depends on where your mindset is at. But for a lot of people that don't know how to handle how to lose that abundance, it's a bad thing. If you know in your heart that the million that you get could be gone at any point in time and you're back at your old job or whatever the fuck it is, if you can't handle that truth as what could be, not what is, what could be, then I guarantee you, you're either gonna do something to get you there, or you're gonna go on, you're gonna go and do the most that you can without ever going back, to the point where it's like aggressive's fine, but to where it's like villainy kind of shit, no. Both paths are paths to ruination, whether you become the haves or the have-nots. Now, Seneca from Epistles. No one is worthy of the gods except he who has disdained riches. I do not forbid you to possess them, but I want to bring you to the point at which you possess them without fear. There is only one way to achieve this, by persuading yourself that you can live happily without them, and by regarding them as always about to depart. That's what I just been. That's what I said. I'm telling you, me and Seneca, we're like homeboys, even though he's been dead for God knows how long. But it's true, And he goes back to but I want to bring you to the point at which you possess them without fear. What does fear do? It fucking ruins more than it betters, all the time. Now, from Epictetus from Enchiridion. When you are tempted by some apparent pleasure, guard yourself. Just as with other impressions, against being carried away by it. Let the thing wait for you, and give yourself some delay. Then think about 2 times to come. The time when you will enjoy the pleasure, and the time afterwards when, having enjoyed it, you will regret it and reproach yourself. Compare this with how pleased you will be, and how you will congratulate yourself if you don't do it. Still, if it seems that the time is right to do the thing, just take care that the charm and pleasure and attraction of it do not overcome you. Compare how much better it is to know you have won this victory against it. And you want to know what? When it comes down to this kind of stuff, and ROP spelled backwards, and ROP spelled backwards. It is the biggest thing that it's like it's almost romanticized at this point. But it comes down to all these workers in that space, and just these this lewd content being put out there, and it has done a lot more harm than good to the masses, men especially, because they feel like they cannot approach women, and absolutely so, because you're thinking, again, instant gratification. I referred to this at the start of this video, where you go, you look it up on your phone, boom, there's a video, you click that, you're taking care of business. And it's just like, it's not as easy as that out in the real world. You cannot look at women like objects of especially objects of desire, even though they just they dress up like that sometimes, and that's fine. They dress up like that, but they don't want that. And it's just like, well, I mean, look at how you look, you know. And it's kind of just having the cake and eat it too. This isn't the world that we live in where you can have that unless you have that kind of financial wealth, and that's it. But for people doing NROP excessively, that you get lethargic or lazy, you don't feel like doing anything, you lost your motivation and your energy for the day, and nothing good is coming of that. There's no positive takeaways for that, but besides the point of increasing endurance, in which case, all right, if endurance is your one problem, okay, then you could still go ahead and do it, not to end ROP, maybe towards I don't know, whatever heartthrob that's there, if it's just like a picture or something, because what you are engaging in is voyeurism, which is just you're sitting there and letting the other two people go at it, and this is kind of like, you're doing that through a phone screen. So and it's just like that person, those two people are having a good old time. What are you doing? Living vicariously through that? Nah, man. Fuck that. Fuck that. You can go out and get your own and do the work for it. Figure it out if you haven't. You could be in the same position. Maybe not en masse, where it's just a lot of them are approaching it. And quite honestly, I truly don't believe you want that line. You don't. At some point, you're going to get tired, and, oh, well, where was the time I put in for myself because I was just going around chasing cat. Come on, dude. Yeah, interesting example, but it's what's been plaguing, and well, one of the many plagues of society today, and in the West, where it's ridiculously hedonistic, I believe, and hedonistic to a fault. Now, 7, moderation. Moderation is regarded by the Stoic not only as an admired virtue, but as a helpful technique. It doesn't mean less pleasure, quote unquote. It means the possibility of actual and lasting pleasure, a way to enjoy something without spoiling it, and without the cost and regrets that come with excess. I can't talk today. It's crazy. Haven't had the second cup of coffee yet, but we move forward now. Thank you, Mr. Farnsworth. So with that, it's just what I was talking about not that long ago. Moderation is key to everything, man. Literally everything. You can live a happy life, or a happier life, in moderation than you would in abundance. Because think about it like this. You have to drive through, okay? And I don't know. Picture in your mind a drive through that has a long list of options for you to choose from. Used to be Taco Bell. It could be Taco Bell still, whatever. And you have a lot going on there, Or if you're at the Cheesecake Factory, we all know that they have the Bible of menus of all this stuff to go through. And you're immediately indecisive because you have so many options. So even when you go ahead and get one of the options, like, oh no, this is great. Oh, but next time I want to get this. You're not going to go ahead and get the same thing, which is fine. But I just want you to know where it's like, as you're eating that, or even if you're eating something with someone else or a group of people, you're gonna enjoy your plate, but you're gonna look at theirs too. It's like, yo, I bet that tastes so fucking good right now, and but you're not, but you're not gonna ask for what's on their plate. You're just gonna be like, oh well, next time when it's my time, I'll go ahead and get that. But just to provide an example of that, where it's not necessarily taking less pleasure in it because you still have good tasting food, and I can guarantee you that those those group of friends or your date that they had their own food, they're looking at yours too because it's oh maybe I should have got that chicken thing or maybe I should have got that steak thing, and it's just like no man, just engage in what you have because that was initially what you wanted out of a sea of abundance, out of a sea of options to choose from. You chose that one. Especially if you had to compare this or that, you still ended up choosing that one. So be happy with it. Fuck. You know? As soon as it comes down to to the whole plate's clean, be happy with it. And knowing that the next time, yeah, you could get the other one, but just don't put so much thought into the other one. Now, moderation for the Stoic isn't just a question of not taking too much or doing too much of something. It is an attitude of restraint. Thank you, Mr. Farnsworth. Now, from Seneca, from Epistles, self-control restrains our desires. Some it hates and gets rid of, others it manages and restores to a healthy level. Nor does it ever seek to satisfy desires for their own sake. Self-control knows the best measure of the appetites is not how much you want to take, but how much you ought to take. I don't have to unpack that. I really don't. Montaigne, from his book of Experience. And this is 1580, Montaigne. Moderation is not the scourge of pleasure, but the seasoning of it. That's it. That is, man, he must have been a chef. I don't know. But, really think about it like that. Moderation is not the scourge of pleasure, but the seasoning of it. For whatever, you got a family, okay, family like 6, cooking up all this stuff, okay, there's a little bit on each person's plate, looks good, but it's the seasoning that really gets you. It's like, this tastes so good. Or yeah, you're gonna wish that there's more, but you're happy with what you had and how well it tasted. And granted, everyone else gets to have the same thing. Just a little seasoning. A little seasoning goes a long way. Trust from an ethnic man. Seasoning goes a long way. Now, 8, natural appetites. According to nature, quote unquote, actually, sorry. This is this is from a certain excerpt of an excerpt, but from this excerpt had further meanings too, some of which had held up better. Now, what they're talking about from this according to nature, it's just a debate from a previous chapter that I may have went over, but I may have not. But literally, it's just again, nature provides us with the stuff that we need to get by. Even though nature is harsh, but nature will never leave us ill-equipped. Right? So it means a life of reason, as Stoics regard reason as nature's distinctive gift to mankind, and that approach to living will appeal to many regardless of the rationale for it. Which is true. Back in the day, we didn't have shit. Came the rain. How do I get out of the rain? All right, I'll go under the tree. Okay, the tree fell down. How do I make something like the tree that was protecting me or shielding me from the rain? I'll take some of this stuff. All right, now I got a little hut. Rain be gone. It's literally that simple. It's that simple. We have a bunch of stuff at our disposal, especially more now than ever, to make light of dark shit or of heavy shit, to make better of something that was worse or bad. More relevant to our immediate purposes, living according to nature also means taking satisfaction from fulfillment of the desires that nature creates in us, which the Stoic would say is not hard to achieve. It's true, man. I know I'm talking about it, to put it into practice, obviously it requires work, but it's not the craziest thing. It's not the hardest thing. It really isn't. So long as you put certain things on the scale to weigh it. You have to all the time. You know, is this for my betterment or is it for my worsening? Seneca from Epistles. It is the superfluous things for which we sweat. Those are the things that wear our togas threadbare, that force us to grow old in army camps, that dash us on foreign shores. That which is enough is right at hand. So, to unpack that a little bit, you know, the superfluous things, the things that like we might put an importance tag on it, might not even matter that much in the grand scheme of things. Um, you gotta figure out what's enough for you. Really, you gotta figure out what's enough for you and roll with that. You can get a little more and still have it be enough, just a little more. It doesn't have to be a lot more, but a little more, so that enough will be good. You'll be good to go. Now, from Farnsworth, the Stoic holds that pleasures arising from natural sources are rightfully enjoyed. It merely should be done with moderation. But most of our energies are instead spent chasing short-lived pleasures that we invent or we inflate. Goddamn, yes, that, 100%. Because look at how everything is now. You know? Or even, what the hell was it? I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, to my knowledge, it started with avocados, where everyone was hyping up the shit out of avocados and guacamole to where there was an inflation of that to meet the supply and demand because we were going over with moderation. Okay, I can't say so much on eggs. It's listen, man. I don't want to pay $5 to $6 a carton of it either, but that's a little bit different. I mean, you can attest to people getting more into eggs, sure, but I honestly think with what's going on with farmers nowadays, it's a messy business. But that's a topic for another time. From Marcus Aurelius on his book Meditations. Won't you hurry to do what your nature requires? Quote, but rest is also necessary, end quote. And so say I. Nature has allowed for due measure of that too, as it has for eating and drinking. And still you go beyond those measures, beyond what is enough, except when it comes to getting things done, where you stop short of what is possible. Imagine that. Look, breaks are fine. Don't quit. Breaks are fine. Don't let it be a week or a month, for fuck's sake. A day or two, like you're 2 days off from work, and even then, still do for you more than what you do for your job, please. For the breaks that you get, it's very easy to get sucked into the same horseshit that never benefited you. Like me back in the day, bad video game addiction, bad, just whoa, to where it was what I was doing all the time. It from what was a comfort zone became an egregious self-indulgence act of just bullshit. I look back on that now, yeah, waste of time. But I have no regrets because, oddly enough, on a different hand, I stayed out of trouble in a town where there was a lot of that shit going around. I just kept to myself, but it had me not know how to be a human. I was just so much more focused on just the digital realm and what that could bring or what that could give to me rather than what the real world could give to me as I would give to it. So it's I find this very interesting. Nature has allowed for due measure of that too, as it has for eating and drinking. And still you go beyond those measures, beyond what's enough, except when it comes to getting things done. All of a sudden, you don't want to go to work today. You want to have a mental health day. Jesus, I can't agree with that. I can't. You can look if you want a day to yourself. Yes, you can do that. But don't. It's not a mental health day. I don't believe that's a thing. It's bullshit. Okay. If you want to have your own mental health, whatever, you know what that means? That means that you need to give more time to yourself to just figure shit out. Don't just say, I need to have a mental health day, and you go and you going towards your self-indulgence bullshit, like how I did. I didn't say I needed a mental health day. I'm just like, nah, fuck that. I'm not going to work. I'm going to play video games all day. Great. What did that do in the long run? Nothing. Except me hating to want to go back to the same job. Okay, so a lot of people will say, oh yeah, mental health day. Well, what are you doing to appease to your mental health day? You'll feel better going back into work tomorrow. What is it that you've done? Did you do the work for yourself to get out of this mental funk? Because if you didn't and you just used it as some sort of like BS ploy to, do what it is that you want and have people feel sorry for you, well, I don't. And they should not either. And you shouldn't. What the hell? Why feel sorry for yourself when you can build from yourself? If you feel sorry for yourself, it's the victimhood shit, and you're putting yourself down and you're keeping yourself there. For what? And I hope to God it's not because of validation. To where someone can finally notice you, or you can get some sort of attention or whatever, because that's some horse shit. And I will call you out on that. And as you should call other people on that when you see it. All right? Because as I said before, we are more than mental health issues. It's a part of us. It can be a big thing, but that doesn't mean that you cannot be more than that, which you can be. 9. Uses of pleasure. Pleasures should be viewed as minor or trivial things, and not as the point of living. Pleasures should be viewed with wariness because they often end up causing us trouble. It's true. It's what I've been saying. And from Seneca, on Tranquility of the Mind. We must be indulgent to the mind and regularly grant it the leisure that serves as its food and strength. I don't really have to unpack much of that either. And from that, we're going to go ahead and get to Seneca on anger. Games will also be beneficial for pleasure in moderation relaxes. Sorry, let's start this over. Games will also be beneficial. For pleasure in moderation relaxes the mind and gives it balance. The more damp and the drier natures and also the cold are in no danger from anger. But they must beware the more sluggish faults. Fear, moroseness, discouragement, and suspicion. And so such natures have need of encouragement and indulgence and the summons to cheerfulness. And since certain remedies are to be employed against anger, others against sullenness, and the two faults are to be cured, not merely by different, but even by contrary methods, we shall always attack the fault that has become the stronger. This was a little bit challenging to read because there are a lot of commas. But even so, putting back into what Farnsworth had said on the uses of pleasure, where look, you don't want to get too caught up in it, because with pleasure comes the play, right? And for the people that are out there trying to receive the pleasure, could instantly be played. It's that simple. It's really that simple, and that's throughout a lot of different aspects of life, where you try to get some pleasure, you get played, and even though you're trying to play for the pleasure, yeah, it's a little weird, but really think about that, Now, number 10, pleasures of the mind. From Farnsworth, the Stoics give their highest endorsement to the pleasures associated with understanding and wisdom, which might be enjoyed even immoderately without fear of recoil. Stoics regard the mind as the site and the source of true happiness. Which is true. Like I said, your mind could be the worst enemy or the best hero or protagonist. Whatever you want to call it, that's like really good. And even though I say that we are beyond that, again, that doesn't mean that it's any less important than what it should be or what it is, because it is. Now, a happy mind, happy life, man. Where people go, oh yeah, I made my financial state is good, my this state is good. Okay, how about your mental state? And then they just laugh at you. It's like, all right. Seneca, from Consolation to Helvia. It is the mind that makes us rich. It goes with us into exile, and in the most untamed wilderness, when it has found all that the body needs to be sustained, it relishes the enjoyment of its many own goods. I don't have to unpack that. I don't. It's what I've been saying. Now, from Farnsworth, real happiness for the Stoic comes from seeing the world in an accurate way and with benevolence. And you got to understand how, like, the world is bigger than your room. The world is bigger than your city, town, state that you're in. It is the world to where you are a dot. A humble dot, hopefully, but a dot. And there will always be things out there that are just bigger than you. Better, it could be a little bit subjective because it's how you perceive it, But bigger in a sense, yeah, sure. And even that could be a little bit subjective if you know how to move accordingly. But this is what you need to do. It's the work that you must provide for yourself. Now, from Marcus Aurelius on Meditations. As for me, I am happy if the ruling force in my mind is sound. If I do not turn away from anyone, nor any of those things that happen to men, but can look upon all things with kindly eyes, and value everything according to its true worth. It's true. And these guys, man, I love these Stoics, man. They have been on their shit, and all this is still relative, era by era by era. And we're gonna get into a little bit deeper with this kind of thing from Schopenhauer, from his book The Wisdom of Life in 1851. And this is a bit of a doozy. The world in which a man lives shapes itself chiefly by the way in which he looks at it, and so it proves different to different men. To one it is barren, dull, and superficial. To another, rich, interesting, and full of meaning. On hearing of the interesting events which have happened in the course of a man's experience, many people will wish that similar things had happened in their lives too, completely forgetting that they should be envious, rather of the mental aptitude which lent those events the significance they possess when he describes them. Since everything which exists or happens for a man exists only in his consciousness, and happens for it alone, the most essential thing for a man is the constitution of this consciousness, which is in most cases far more important than the circumstances which go to form its contents. All the pride and pleasure of the world mirrored in the dull consciousness of a fool are poor indeed compared with the imagination of Cervantes writing his Don Quixote in a miserable prison. And now, it's not really clear how much of Don Quixote was written in prison. That's been the thing. But one should not quibble when the point is so good. I'd argue when the point is so good. So literally that, man. This is from 1851, this guy. So kind of getting closer to the 1900s, but even still, this is a bomb. This is a bomb, and if you need to play it back, please. But your life is going to be different than someone else's life. There may be likenesses to it. That's no takeaway from yours or theirs. For what they get and what you didn't, in let's say some sort of race competition or whatever, or you're working together, this and that, you still get something. It's all on a matter of how you treat it. Because if I'm working neck and neck with some guy, he gets paid more than I do, but I still get my pay. And he's like, oh yeah, I gotta get this now, okay. Dial in his circumstance and dial in my own. He could get a lot more money. All right, but he's got like 3 kids and a wife at home. All right, that's gonna go like that, no problem. Me, I'm just a party of one. I may have my pets, it's fine. But even still, that little bit that I had compared to the grandiose that he got, I could still make a lot of for me. It isn't for him. It has nothing to do with him. He's not living with me. It's me. It's my life. And this is where a lot of people tend to go wrong in this shit, to where, again, you're living in comparisons. You're not happy with what you have. You're not happy with who you are, in which case we have to flip that. We have to fucking judo flip that to make stronger people. Because with this sort of mentality being put into play in society, it's a plague. It's a plague that's creating weak people to where weakness is the norm now, and you're demonized for showing strength and resilience. In which case, that's perfectly fine, because the cycle is going to continue anyways. That with the weak men come the bad times create the strong men, and the strong men create the good times. It's how it's been going for years and years and years. It's just a matter of, which lasts more, the strong men and the good times of the weak men, or the weak men and the bad times, or the bad times to create the strong men. Which one of these periods lasts longer? Because I can honestly say that in an ideal world, you got the strong men that create the good times. But that's just world's not that ideal, simply put. And with that, we have covered wealth and pleasures. I wanted to get to a different topic today, but I feel like this was very important to cover. The other one will come, whether it's alive tonight or next weekend. But now I'm out of Rumble. I'm on YouTube now. I'm going to expand my platform to different spaces and see what sticks. I've gotten a lot of good feedback over my appearance on Rumble, so I want to put that out into the space on YouTube. Now, this to me is an aside from the red pill space. And if for some reason it's like, no, you are in the red pill space, then so be it. But I will always say that within the red pill space, like take a good chunk, but don't take the whole thing to where you get black pilled, to where it's just you understand the truth of what it is, but you're just angry. Don't be angry. Accept the harsh realities of life for what it is. Move accordingly with that to be better. Not to be bitter, to be better. And even if there are women out here that are watching my videos as well, the same thing. The truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off. But you want to live in betterment, not bitterment. Sorry, bitterment. You want to live in betterment, not bitterness. And that's a fact. Everyone wants to do that. Not a lot of people know how, and if they do know how, they wrestle with that. And okay, you're going to have your time with it, wrestle with it. Because that's the time that you put in, that once when you're done, all right, you might have had to put more work in than the other person, but you still did it. And that's fulfillment enough when you're trying to be a good person. Not the nice person, be the good person. Because what's good for the goose will always be good for the gander, so long as you have your moral compass, your mentality, and your belief system aligned to where you will be undefeatable, immovable, the force that's needed, and you have it trickle down. You can find me on YouTube at the same thing, South Coast Stoic. Email me at southcoaststoic@gmail.com if you have any sort of questions or comments or whatever. If you want to just reach out, if you want to have a one-on-one, I'd be willing to do that. Since this is the beginning, and even if through some craziness that I blow up, I would still do it. Just know that if there's a lot more people to it, then yeah, I'd have to create seminars instead of one-on-ones. But we're definitely going to get to the bottom of this. And I want to let y'all know that this isn't me reinventing the wheel or anything like that. I may have, with me unpacking things, yeah, those are my words. Some of these my sources will always be cited. Okay. Because there are great people to provide this information. It's just being lost upon us now in a sense, but it's there. But it's been swallowed by modernity, as all things. That's fine. But when you look back into the past and realize that this has always happened, that's got to do something to your mindset when you think about it. Like, I guess we weren't so far removed from then. I can only imagine how it was then, even though we didn't have technology. But with that, I hope you have a blessed rest of your weekend. Much love to you. and I'll see you around.